Yehezq'ėl chapter 20. And it came to be in the 7th year, in the 5th month, on the 10th of the new moon, that certain of the elders of Israel came to inquire of Yahweh, and sat before me. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, speak to the elders of Israel, and say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh, Have you come to inquire of me? As I live, I am not being inquired of by you, declares the Master Yahweh. Judge them, Son of man, judge them. Make known to them the abominations of their fathers, and you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh, On the day when I chose Israel, and lifted my hand in an oath to the seed of the house of Yaakov, and made myself known to them in the land of Mitzrayim, I lifted my hand in an oath to them, saying, I am Yahweh your Elohim. On that day I lifted my hand in an oath to them, to bring them out of the land of Mitzrayim, into a land that I had searched out for them, flowing with milk and honey, the splendor of all lands. And I said to them, Each one of you throw away the abominations which are before his eyes, and do not defile yourselves with the idols of Mitzrayim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. But they rebelled against me, and would not obey me. All of them did not throw away the abominations which were before their eyes, nor did they forsake the idols of Mitzrayim. So I resolved to pour out my wrath on them to complete my displeasure against them in the midst of the land of Mitzrayim. But I acted for my name's sake, that it should not be profaned before the eyes of the nations among whom they were, before whose eyes I had made myself known to them, to bring them out of the land of Mitzrayim. So I took them out of the land of Mitzrayim, and I brought them into the wilderness. And I gave them my laws, and showed them my right rulings, which, if a man does, he shall live by them. And I also gave them my Sabbaths, to be a sign between them and me, to know that I am Yahweh who sets them apart. But the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness. They did not walk in my laws, and they rejected my right rulings, which, if a man does, he shall live by them. And they greatly profaned my Sabbaths. Then I said I would pour out my wrath on them in the wilderness to consume them. But I acted for my name's sake, not to profane it before the nations, before whose eyes I had brought them out. And I myself also lifted my hand in an oath to them in the wilderness, not to bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, the splendor of all lands, because they rejected my right rulings and did not walk in my laws, and they profaned my Sabbaths, for their heart went after their idols, and my eye pardoned them from destroying them, and I did not make an end of them in the wilderness. And I said to their children in the wilderness, Do not walk in the laws of your fathers, nor observe their rulings, nor defile yourself with their idols. I am Yahweh your Elohim. Walk in my laws, and guard my right rulings, and do them, and set apart my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, to know that I am Yahweh your Elohim. But the children rebelled against me. They did not walk in my laws and my right rulings. They did not guard to do them, which if a man does, he shall live by them. They profaned my Sabbaths, so I resolved to pour out my wrath on them to complete my displeasure against them in the wilderness. But I held back my hand and acted for my name's sake, not to profane it before the eyes of the nations, before whose eyes I had brought them out. Also, I myself lifted my hand in an oath to those in the wilderness, to scatter them among the nations and disperse them throughout the lands, because they had not done my right rulings, and they rejected my laws, and they profaned my Sabbaths, and their eyes were on their fathers' idols. And I also gave them up to laws that were not good, and right rulings by which they would not live. And I defiled them by their own gifts, as they passed all their firstborn through the fire, so that I might stun them, so that they know that I am Yahweh. Therefore, Son of man, speak to the house of Israel, and you shall say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh, In this your fathers have further reviled me, by committing trespass against me. When I brought them into the land for which I had lifted my hand in an oath to give them, and they saw all the high hills and all the thick trees, they slaughtered their slaughterings there, and provoked me with their offerings there. And they sent up their sweet fragrance there, and poured out their drink offerings there. And I said to them, What is this high place to which you go? So its name is called High Place to this day. Therefore, say to the house of Israel, Thus said the Master Yahweh, Are you defiling yourselves in the way of your fathers, and do you whore after their abominations? For when you lift up your gifts, and make your sons pass through the fire, you defile yourselves with all your idols, even to this day. And shall I be inquired of by you, O house of Israel? As I live, declares the Master Yahweh, I am not being inquired of by you. And what comes up in your spirit shall never be, when you say, Let us be like the nations, like the tribes in other lands, serving wood and stone. As I live, declares the Master Yahweh, do not I, with a mighty hand, with an outstretched arm, and with wrath poured out, reign over you? And I shall bring you out from the peoples, and gather you out of the lands where you are scattered, with a mighty hand, and with an outstretched arm, and with wrath poured out. And I shall bring you into the wilderness of the peoples, and shall enter into judgment with you face to face there. As I entered into judgment with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Mitzrayim, so I shall enter into judgment with you, declares the Master Yahweh. And I shall make you pass under the rod, and shall bring you into the bond of the covenant, and purge the rebels from among you, and those who transgress against me. From the land where they sojourn I bring them out, but they shall not come into the land of Israel, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. As for you, O house of Israel, thus said the Master Yahweh, Go, serve each of you his idols, and afterwards, if you are not listening to me, but do not profane my set-apart name any more with your gifts and your idols, for on my set-apart mountain, on the mountain height of Israel, declares the Master Yahweh, there all the house of Israel, all of them in the land, shall serve me. There I shall accept them, and there I shall require your offerings, and the firstfruits of your offerings, together with all your set-apart gifts. As a sweet fragrance I shall accept you when I bring you out from the peoples, and I shall gather you out of the lands where you have been scattered, and I shall be set apart in you before the nations. And you shall know that I am Yahweh, when I bring you into the land of Israel, into the land for which I lifted my hand in an oath to give to your fathers. And there you shall remember your ways and all your deeds with which you were defiled. And you shall loathe yourselves in your own sight because of all the evils that you did. And you shall know that I am Yahweh, when I have dealt with you for my name's sake, not according to your evil ways, nor according to your corrupt deeds, O house of Israel, declares the Master Yahweh. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face toward the south, and drop word against the south, and prophesy against the forest land, the south. And you shall say to the forest of the south, Hear the word of Yahweh. Thus said the Master Yahweh, See, I am kindling a fire in you, and it shall devour every green tree, and every dry tree in you. The blazing flame is not quenched, and it shall burn all faces from the south to the north. And all flesh shall see that I, Yahweh, have kindled it, it is not quenched. And I said, Ah, Master Yahweh, they are saying of me, Is he not speaking parables?